Okay, before we get started, this video is going to be an absolute mess and I sincerely apologize. I'll explain better in my next video, but I'm literally about to put my computer in a box and not be online for 2 months. The moment I unplug my tower, Ghost Ship releases a new experimental build, invalidating a lot of the information and making irrelevant a lot of the things that I say in this video. So, we're back online with one monitor, and I'm going to amend the parts of this video and make it current with the current build of the experimental. And God, I hope it doesn't change again by the time this comes out. This video is going to be an absolute Frankenstein abomination, and my tone is going to shift constantly because it's going to go from audio I recorded 24 hours ago to now. I apologize, but the information is going to be good, and that's what matters. Hello everybody, and welcome back. I wanted to make a quick video going over some more of the updated stuff in Season 4 Experimental. And I'm happy to report that 2 of the 3 things that I strongly advocated for being changed my first video have been changed already. While I don't believe it's entirely fixed because the update note says the randomizer will now correctly randomize your pickaxe cosmetics, it now doesn't randomize them and leaves them as is. Just to not be a stickler, I'm fine with this just staying the way it is and the pickaxe not being randomized. As long as it's not being reset to default, I'm not really bothered, but just to put it out there, it's still not randomizing correctly. It just leaves it as is. But now this is much less of a concern in my opinion, as it doesn't make the randomizer feel, like, buggy anymore. Next, we have the air strafing on the jet boots, and once again, I'm happy to report that this is basically completely resolved in my opinion. You still can't air strafe while actively flying upwards with the jet boots, which I think is completely fine. Just to be clear, I think this was the original vision, because in the patch notes they said fixed jet boot air strafing, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't even intentional that it was gimping your air strafing so badly. Apparently it still reduces your ability to air strafe slightly, even while you're not jetting, I think, according to the patch notes, but it feels like full air mobility to me, so no complaints on that front. They feel really nice now. The main thing for me was just the jet boots being on, crippling my movement even when I'm not actively using them. That was unacceptable, and that has been clearly addressed and seems to have been a bug in the first place. So, 2 thumbs up on that. And the thing that was added in patch number 3 that wasn't originally in this cut of this video is they did exactly what I said. They remove the puddles from the Rockpox Corruptor whenever it dies now. Hell yeah, bro. We are literally 3 for 3 on my wish list of changes for this update. I gotta say, right now this is panning out to look better than Season 3 in my opinion. Just because of all of the great weapon changes that are rolling out. Even if they're not inherently balanced, things are getting tuned up, not tuned down. A lot of overclocks that didn't see any use just because they were boring, didn't function properly, or were just statistically inferior to their alternatives, are all getting a facelift. Like I've talked about in the past, this is breathing new life into these overclocks and is buying us time to play with them for the rest of the season. And if they continue bringing subpar overclocks up at this rate, we might have enough to last for 6 months. Holy hell. Carpet Bomber got a buff. Neurotoxin got a slight rework. I think it might honestly be stronger now, but that remains to be seen. I haven't gotten to test it yet. The Septic Spreader got a bug on it fixed, where if it hit you with its acid and you weren't standing in the puddle, it would permanently be on you until you died. Had this happen to me, so I'm glad to see that fixed. And a bunch of other generally good changes. If you want to check them out, check out the experimental change list in the Discord. Double Barrel got more of a rework than it got in the previous patch, which is another reason I'm remaking this section. It is now a balanced overclock. It massively increases your blast wave damage and comes with a penalty of shot spread now. The thing is though, if you take the tier 4 blast wave mod on the boomstick itself with this overclock, you can actually get 110 damage on the blast wave, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to one-shot every grunt within 4 meters of your gun, even if you don't hit them with a single pellet. Combine this with the tech that allows you to shoot only 1 barrel at a time, and we're looking at a very, very powerful overclock. It's essentially 2 weapons in 1 if you can hit the animation cancel consistently. Also, you can ignore the part in the video after this one where I incorrectly state that it's still a clean overclock. Womp womp, tough break. Reduce the ammo penalty on spinning death for the breach cutter. I honestly thought the thing was doing fine, but a buff is a buff, you'll love to see it. Cryo Cannon actually got some pretty adept changes to the snowball overclock that solve some of its problems. Namely, it reduces the ammo cost of the snowball to bring it more in line with Ice Spear, which is great. And also, whenever an enemy is hit by a snowball, it can't warm up for a short amount of time. This helps a lot with freezing enemies that don't freeze in one snowball. So now you can actually slap them with a snowball and then give yourself time to recharge your cryo cannon and get that on them as well. So that's a pretty notable and tactful change to make the snowball overclock better. I still think that the negatives are a little too overbearing and should be more in line with Ice Spear, but I thought it was fine as it was before this, so just getting another buff to make it play better and feel better is always a great thing. And now two that I actually wanted to go out and test myself and visualize, because I found some pretty interesting results when I did. First we have the Hurricane and the Plasma Burster Missiles overclock. We actually had a little subplot in my Discord recently where Triple D was going out and testing Plasma Burster missiles a great deal more than I would, and discovering a lot of interesting stuff about how the missiles behave and why they don't tend to hit enemies that you think they would in a predictable way. And one of the changes they made in this patch was actually making it so the missiles are more capable of continuing to spin around inside of an enemy instead of hitting the ground. I've definitely seen some of the missiles passing through the ground without getting deleted, so I'm not really sure how this is working from a technical standpoint, but it's absolutely making them more predictable, responsive, and consistent whenever you're holding them on top of enemies, which is one of my biggest complaints with Plasma Burster missiles. I still don't know if it's necessarily going to be a great overclock, but this will certainly improve the weapon feel. It's not that it was ever, like, non-viable or anything, it was okay, but it was just the inconsistency and the tendency to hit terrain and despawn the missiles that was a huge issue. So I hope this will make the weapon feel a lot better. That said, I haven't really used Plasma Burster missiles enough in the past to say how this feels versus then to now, so I'll leave that up to a lot of people that have more experience with it than I do. And here's the big fish. This is a good one. Shield battery booster changes for the Drac. Namely, it reduces the amount of time that it takes to recover from an overheat, which is whatever, not really that pressing. It's a good change, but not a huge deal. Here's the big one. Added a significant shield regeneration bonus. I went out and tested all of these, and while my numbers aren't super precise, I just grabbed them from game footage of me playing with the different builds of the gun, but it seems to be a across-the-board 3-second shield recharge delay reduction. Just to be clear, it doesn't seem to affect the actual regeneration speed of the shield, and it's more about the amount of time that you wait before your shield starts to recharge. And now here's the big thing with this. This has always been an element of shield battery booster, but now it's been pushed to a significant degree. If you're using tier 1A on the armor with shield battery booster, your shield will start to regenerate 1 second after you take damage. This works even when the Drac is not in your hands. So just by equipping this overclock, you have a significant bonus to your survivability. I won't say that your shield is going to protect you from all this damage and you're going to be able to face tank things, but getting your shields to start regenerating 6 seconds sooner than you would with an alternative build is pretty significant. From what I can tell, in Season 3, the delay was about 4 seconds, which is okay. Not really warranting any sort of defense for shield battery booster, considering how poor it is overall. But dropping that all the way down to 1 single second to start your shield regenerating is worthy of consideration, even if you're not using your primary. I still don't think it's particularly strong as an overclock. The +5 damage and projectile velocity is good, but on a fundamental level, shield battery booster still has a lot of the same issues. Though I can definitely say that the situations where you have this happen are a lot less unfortunate whenever your shield starts to recharge in 1 second. That stray swarmer getting a hit off on you no longer leaves you without an overclock for 6 full seconds. And that's a big deal. Obviously, getting your whole shield chunked off of you is still pretty unfortunate, but I think that good players will take significantly less of those big chunk shots, and it's a lot more of taking a little tiny quarter of your shield from fall damage while repositioning, or getting clipped by a swarmer, or the edge of a tri-jaw projectile. Bottom line is, I think this is a change that benefits people who are playing into Shield Battery Booster's strengths, but it now doesn't punish you as much whenever the inevitable does happen and you take a little bit of damage. And if you're one of those people that says skill issue, just never get hit, I guarantee you've never watched your health into shield bar over the course of a mission. You get absolutely pelted with chip damage in this game. There's been a lot of other changes to Experimental, none of them hugely significant. A lot of changes to the Stingtail to bring it more in line with like a Praetorian class of enemy, making it a little bit more tanky, making its grab more threatening. All of these changes I think are pretty good because I wasn't really a fan of how both the Septic Spreader and the Stingtail died in a matter of seconds of them spawning. So seeing the Stingtail traverse more towards being a like medium tank type enemy is pretty good. It also motivates you to take armor breaking on more of your weapons like a lot of the other enemies have to actually break the armor off of its head and get to its weak point. Overall, I haven't seen too much come up for the Septic Spreader in way of changes. I saw one interesting idea that maybe its projectile spit could actually turn into like a platform size piece of terrain whenever it stopped doing damage to you, and that would give it a unique niche of actually creating terrain unlike every other enemy in the game. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if the Septic Spreader necessarily needs any changes, but it would be interesting to see it have that extra little bit of delineation to separate it from Acid Spitters and Goo Bombers in that way. Hashtag Nerf Hipster. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a good day.